Hey everyone, it's Andrew Schiffman.
Harry Turcotte here. We both worked at MTV in the music and talent department in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, it was a time where music videos, TRL, The Jersey Shore, and the Osbournes ruled the airwaves.
Yes, Andrew, those are some great years. So tune in every week as we catch up with old MTV co-workers, record label execs, VJs, and artists.
I can't wait, Perry. We'll give you insights into meeting superstars before they were superstars and some juicy secrets from that golden age of MTV.
So grab your headphones and get ready to relive the era of music television and the people who shaped a generation.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. We are taping on a Sunday morning. So
Facing
that's
a
why
New
we
York
said
storm.
good morning. Yeah, it's supposed to snow here today. I would like to have a nice snowstorm, but I'm sure it'll end up just being slush that we get here in the city. So I'm not too hopeful about it.
Yeah. Well, it's a cold front that's coming afterwards, so I think it's all just going to freeze. So
Yeah.
Oh dear.
maybe not get slush, but I'm
Well,
ready for it.
As
All
long as
right.
it starts after the playoff games.
There you go.
So welcome to the Music Lounge. We have Susan Natoli back with us today. Thank you,
Yay,
Susan, for
Susan.
joining us.
Yay, thanks for having me.
Susan's been busy,
Susan's been very busy. Very busy.
Good.
which is good, right?
Yeah.
Feels good.
Just announced our new exhibit at the Paley Museum, The Road to the Big Game New Orleans. It's a celebration of the history of Super Bowl. And we have artifacts such as the Lombardi Trophy, all 58 Super Bowl rings, which 7 of them belong to Tom Brady, game balls, helmets, jerseys, and commercials, of course. So if you're not a football fan, you still watch Super Bowl for those amazing advertisements. And
they did the "What's Up" commercial, right, back in the day.
Yes, yeah, that was a big Budweiser. Budweiser always
Heineken, wasn't it, or was it Bud?
No, it was
yeah.
Budweiser.
So
I don't believe
Susan,
Heineken advertises during the Super Bowl, but Budweiser's the official beer of the
Yeah.
NFL.
did Tom come in personally to deliver his rings to you?
He did not. He's busy today. He's the analyst on the Fox Big Game today. So he called me. He apologized. I understood, of course. His
He'll
schedule's
make it up to
different
you,
now.
right?
He'll make it up to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the season's over.
Yep.
When the Detroit Lions win the Super Bowl, then.
Well,
The season's
I don't
over.
think it's possible for them to win because they lost yesterday.
Did they?
Yes.
I didn't even look. Oh, Jared Goff. Oh.
Yeah,
I
it was
love
a
him.
an upset by Washington. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Well, I do love the Commanders because their third string quarterback, Sam Hartman, is what women picture the hero man to be in romance novels,
Okay.
because he's got a chisel face. He's got like this gorgeous dark flowy hair, and he's only sat the bench, but I'm still rooting for him.
All right. Well, we will see what he does if they make it to the Super Bowl. If he does, if he
Well.
plays at all. Today, we are going to talk about some of the music from the TRL era. And that era was kind of interesting because almost anything could make it to TRL or top 40 radio at that time, whether it was pop, whether it was rock, whether it was hip hop, whether it was new metal, whether it was emo. It was a real sort of hodgepodge of music, which was great because anybody who was a fan of anything could hear their favorite stuff on TRL and on the radio at that time.
I think it was less of a format, but more about the MTV audience. And we were recognizing at shows you had kids of a certain demographic that we were going after that were into, hard rock, maybe Korn, Limp Bizkit, Britney Spears. It was a very mixed mosh of artists, but MTV was really tapping in. And if you made it on TRL, we really broke that artist to the mainstream.
And I think another thing too is you could be a fan of Britney Spears and a fan of Limp Bizkit. And I think that was what was interesting about that time. I don't know if that is sort of how people consume music today, especially because of streaming. And I think if you listen to one artist, an algorithm is going to share another artist with you, and you might not get that exposure to music outside of the genre that you're currently listening to.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at radio back then, there was so formatted with its genres. You come on MTV and you have a mix, which I think was great. And again, MTV could have led the way to now you listen to top 40 radio and you've got every genre on there anyway. So really focusing on the audience versus a format.
Yeah, and even in studio guests, I mean, you could have like a Busta Rhymes and Vanessa Carlton on the same episode of TRL. I mean, it was just sort of all over the place, and which I think is what made it so successful for as long as it was. But today we're going to kind of focus on pop, rock, and hip hop, and each talk about some of our favorites in those genres. And I'm going to open it up to the floor to see who would like to go first. Maybe we talk about our favorite pop artists of that time first.
Let's do it. Well,
Andrew, you're
I'll
first.
throw it out. I've been doing a bit of research since we were talking about artists, and yeah, there's probably 50, but one that comes to top of mind is Ed Sheeran. Someone that I think hustled his way, very smart early on, very, very humble, worked his way up to where he is now, almost the one-man band. He got the attention in the States of Jamie Foxx, and I think he took him under his wing, let him stay at his house, and pretty much introduced him to his crew, and he got signed. But, I just really like his story. He's been pretty consistent in his career.
When did he kind of first release his first songs?
So we're looking at about 2011.
Mm-hmm.
18 came out in 2012. It won Brit Awards and all that. So pretty much he had the success of being semi-established in the UK before he came here, which I think is smart. So yeah, we're looking at almost a 15-year career. He's had collaborations. His music videos are always fun. I remember, was it A-Team? The puppet. He had the one with the guy
from Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. His pseudo.
Yeah, Rupert Grint, right?
The lookalike.
I was like, you talking about Ron Weasley?
Yeah, Ron Weasley. Yeah,
and I've always been a fan. I'm at heart an alt guy, but Ed Sheeran, I just loved his hooks. And
well, he does a lot of different stuff too. He can do anything from more dance oriented stuff to acoustic to stuff where he's I don't know if you would call it rap, but he's sort of just
he has a bit of a flow.
A flow to it. Yeah, absolutely.
And I've seen him live too, which helps. I think, where did I see him? I think I saw him up in Boston. Had pretty good seats. Yeah, like one-man band. He puts his loops in a machine and does everything.
Yeah, I would love to see him. Susan, anyone that is a favorite of yours in the pop genre?
I'm old school, so I'm saying Prince.
Solid choice.
Yeah, we had a lot of great tunes from pop artists of the TRL days that we listened to their songs when we were out like at clubs or at bars, like, the Britneys, the Christinas, but like Prince is my favorite. I know we've talked about the Musicology tour before on other podcasts. And this has been said before, but like I've always been a fan of Prince, but when I went to that concert, because I just so happened to get tickets through MTV, like somebody had them and, wasn't going that night, I just became a fan on a whole other level.
Right.
I mean, it was probably the best concert I've ever seen. And I'm a rock chick. Never thought I'd say Prince was the best show I've ever seen coming out of my mouth. But to this day, it really is. So
But there's so many rock elements in his music too.
that's true. That's
yeah.
true. That's true. But I'm more of a grunge type of hair metal. And though that was always my go-to, but
I think
Prince just really,
he's such a staple in music history that there's so many artists that are inspired by Prince. You could say Justin Timberlake, The Weeknd, Bruno Mars, like
absolutely.
even artists like Beck, I think, got a little inspiration from Prince. Solid choice. I love that he really influenced. And there's a handful of artists like that really set that path for artists that are making it today.
So you had said, there's a bunch of artists like the Britneys and Christinas who you would listen to if you went out to a bar or a club or a party somewhere. And I guess that's kind of where I'm going to focus. So for me, yes, I liked Britney. Yes, I liked, early Beyonce stuff when she was releasing as a solo artist. But I think who I really liked from that time was Kelly Clarkson, because she was, and I didn't expect anything from her after she won American Idol and she released her first single. And I was like, who is this girl and whatnot? But she just kept releasing song after song after song that was so catchy, so fun to listen to. And I saw her in concert also, and it was just the energy that you felt in her music when you listened to it was the same energy that was coming from stage and in the audience when I went to see her. But I will say also that I remember when Confessions on a Dance Floor from Madonna came out in 2005, and that was such a great album, and I could not stop listening to that. It was the album of, if there was a Spotify Wrapped at that time, that would have been my artist and album of the year. And I would be remiss if I also didn't talk about Kylie Minogue, who, I don't want to say comeback, but she wasn't on anyone's radar for much of the 90s. And then like the early 2000s hit with Fever. And it was just like all of a sudden she was back again. I don't think she ever became the superstar in the US that she was globally, but I'm glad that she got some recognition here. And
well, I grew up watching Kylie on the Australian sitcom with Jason Donovan, Neighbours.
right.
So I grew up watching her before she was a singer, but I've noticed she's come back the last year with a lot of new songs. What do you think about the new stuff?
So the Padam Padam, which was out a year or two ago, it's an okay song. I think it won Grammy for Best Dance Recording. And I'm glad that, again, people are recognizing her. But I just think she's got a catalog of great songs. Again, one of the best shows that I've ever seen, only because of the energy that was in the audience when I saw her. And then one song by an artist that I just was never able to get out of my head is Dancing on My Own by Robin, which was just such...
The video was incredible.
Oh, yeah. So good. I'm such a fan. And I will say my guilty pleasure in this genre is Ashley Simpson.
Dude, I thought we were just giving one person. You've railed off.
I know.
Like
I had too many notes here.
Category. Oh my God.
I had too many notes here. Listen, for rock and hip hop, I'll probably have a lot less to talk about.
Well, I like what you said about Kelly. I watched her American Idol season, and you've really got to be a musician to break out of a show like that and be the biggest thing on the planet for that moment. But to be able to can continue and be the type of person not to let anything get to your head. And she's probably had ups and downs, but I think consistently with her songs have all been a certain level. So maybe it's the team, the label, that moment she was able to get the support from her team to really push her, because there's some American Idol winners and runner ups that went nowhere. So I think maybe it was timing for her.
Well, and she was the first one too, so I think there
Yeah,
was that novelty too, where no one knew what was possible because of it just being a reality television show. But you're right. But I also think she's just so supremely talented and picks the
Jennifer
right
Hudson, another one too from
Jennifer
that.
Hudson and Carrie Underwood also
Yeah,
in
those three
country.
are probably, yeah,
Yep. Yeah,
three big ones
definitely.
from that.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is both Jay Hud and Kelly have talk shows now,
Yeah,
which
yep,
is
yep,
interesting.
true.
Uh, and Carrie actually is going back to American Idol as the judge this year.
Okay, did not know. Is she
So
taking
yeah,
over Katy Perry's
yes, I
role?
think she's gone. Yeah, I think she's on American. Yeah, it's American Idol. Yep, yeah, she's doing that. We've talked all about pop. It's interesting that none of us picked any boy bands or alumni of boy bands, but they were all great too. On the
I'll pick
rock
a boy
side,
band then. New Kids on the Block. Were they ever on TRL?
they probably were. Yeah.
They were. Oh, that's the only boy band in my life.
There's New Kids, there's NSYNC, there's Backstreet Boys, and then sort of your, I don't want to say second tier, but you had the 98 Degrees and BB Mac and O Town, which was a MTV produced band, I believe. Right? Was
I
it O
believe so.
Town? Yeah.
Think so.
So
They
interesting.
had a
Oh, you
show.
know the boy band I like? Remember that MTV film?
Yeah.
And what was the name of it? They had that. It was a catchy song. I know my
It
calculus.
it was a
You
catchy
plus
song, and it
me
actually
equals
made it
us.
onto TRL.
It
Yeah.
did. It
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
who was
I
it?
can't remember the name. We're gonna have to Google
We'll
this.
have to Google that. While you're doing that, so let's move on to our rock favorites from that era. And I think mine probably straddle the pop rock edge, but I don't know. Do you want to start first on this one, Andrew?
I'll throw to Susan.
Okay.
Okay, great. I'm just gonna say I just looked up the band. It's called Two, the number two, Together.
Right.
Together, yeah,
Right. Right.
Gosh. Okay. Okay. Rock.
together.
I mean, uh, where do I start? Um, Guns N' Roses, of course. Guns N' Roses, and I still remember to this day being at the VMAs. And Jimmy Fallon introducing Guns and fucking Roses, and it was Axl and Buckethead. He was fat and he was wearing an oversized football jersey and couldn't catch his breath when he was running around the stage, but it was still like very exciting for me.
I-
Before, um, also Stone Temple Pilots. I remember when their one of their albums came out. It was the single "Big Bang Baby" was the first single off of it. I remember they came on. They performed "Sour Girl," which is another one of their classic hits, and trust I was in the audience for that, front and center. U2. Remember when they sang Beautiful Day and like we had it broadcasting on all like the big screens around Times Square, but they were in the TRL studio. So that was
Were you at
exciting.
the U2 live concert that we aired from under the Brooklyn Bridge?
No,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't
that
think
was
I was.
amazing. It was incredible because I forget what album it was, but they rode on a flatbed truck down Broadway and
Oh,
over the
right.
Brooklyn Bridge, and then we aired a live performance from there. And I just remember being there, and I was towards the back, and Amy Doyle was like, grab my hand. She's like, no, come up to the front. And we were literally like at the front where the rope was in front of the stage, I was like, this is unbelievable. This is amazing. Because I've was such a fan of that band for so long, and she knew that. So I'm very grateful to her for doing that for me.
Yeah.
Andrew, how about you on the rock side?
Well, that was my genre at MTV. Programmed all the rock stuff on MTV2 and Headbangers Ball and 120 Minutes. Before MTV, I was working PR with Korn, so coming to MTV, just seeing their crazy videos and having been to their shows and stuff, I was a big kind of Korn and Limp Bizkit fan. More of my alt taste. Really love Muse, Linkin Park. Both of those bands I got to work with for the VMAs. Linkin Park performed in LA at the Griffith Park Observatory, so that was
Oh,
like
wow.
a private outdoor concert basically. And when you're assigned to an artist that's performing, you really get to see them perform that song so many times. So that was amazing. And with Muse, I was a massive Muse fan, and I literally sat in rehearsals the days leading up to the show and heard. I think they performed Uprising probably like 20 times in the rehearsals. So you really get your fix on artists that you love. And the good thing about working in the music team, you had the opportunity to really work with artists that you were passionate about. If you were fans of, they paired you with those artists for those big events. So definitely Muse and Linkin Park were big ones. And, obviously Oasis was a big one for me, and got to cover those shoots for 120 minutes and MTV2 shows. Shame I wasn't there for the Unplugged, which was fun. But that was in 96, so I was still in England then. But got to have a full circle moment with those guys in New York. What about you, Perry?
So for me, as I said, it's probably some artists who kind of straddle the pop rock genre. So for me, it was Blink 182. They had a ton of catchy singles, and I thought their videos were incredible. I got to see them once out at Jones Beach, and we were on stage with them, sort of in the wings. I was with their digital guy from the label, and their pyro went off, and it was, I mean, it was probably 20 feet away from me, but still, it felt like it was going off in my face. That's how hot it was. I scared the shit out of me. I was like, what just happened? I didn't expect it. No one warned me. So memorable moment with Blink. Also Good Charlotte too. I thought that they had a bunch of catchy songs, and they hosted the rock show for you, right, Andrew?
Yeah, probably right before my time, but they were massive MTV guys. Personalities were big. They were on Epic, I believe, so they had a lot of support, and they did everything for us, right? Back in the day.
Oh yeah.
They're still doing stuff for Paramount. One of them is the host for Ink Master.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. And they both married well. So
they
there you
did.
go. More on the rock side, the Killers, I thought were just
I was going to bring
incredible.
up the Killers. Yeah, I remember in Miami, the first time I heard Mr. Brightside in this like middle pool area outside of a hotel. I think that was a VMA, or maybe it's a VMA performance, but whatever, it was daytime outside, very early on. And I've had the opportunity to see them a lot this year, which was leading up to their 20th anniversary of Hot Fuss. Saw like a pop-up show at the Bowery. They were on the festival circuit last year. Saw them at Gov Ball and Lollapalooza. So
And
yeah,
then
great band.
another band that I just loved, and it they were also managed by one of our former guests, Interpol. Brandon Schmidt managed them, and again, they were part of that Meet Me in the Bathroom new rock scene from New York in the early 2000s with the Yeah Yeah Yeahs
And
and
the
the
Strokes,
Strokes and
yeah, I was
all of that
really into
stuff.
that scene,
Yeah.
big time, yeah.
And again, that was interesting too, because I'm not saying that they became huge TRL stars, but they did have some exposure through the network at that time, and we were able to spotlight some artists that might not necessarily be getting a super amount of exposure.
Yeah. On the
Um,
flip side of those artists, you had the UK band with the Kooks and the Arctic Monkeys, and so that was
Kaiser Chiefs,
Kaiser Chiefs. That
Kasabian,
was the same era, so it was a fun time, the early 2000s.
the Fratellis, yeah,
Yeah.
all of those
Franz
bands.
Ferdinand.
Franz Ferdinand, Modest
Oh
Mouse.
gosh. Well,
That
you were
was
listening to them. I was listening to Queens of the Stone Age.
yeah. I was listening to Queens as well. I remember there was a show that they did after a Woody's in Austin, and that was the only time I saw Queens. But I think I went by myself. I was like, "Fuck, I have to go." I had a ticket.
Strokes was the worst concert I have ever seen in my life.
Really?
I fell asleep.
Oh, because
I
you got
felt they were
drunk too early.
no, they were so boring.
What?
They put me to sleep.
But they're
They
your
were at
favorite band.
MSG.
Oh,
They were
wow.
at MSG. They were the theater at MSG, and literally, like, I fell asleep. It was the most boring show. They stood there
Wow.
like they were mannequins.
The set list
And
wasn't right, or the band's
they
energy.
only
Maybe they
had
had an off night.
There was no performance.
there was no performance.
Right.
I thought, and I dragged Mike Lopez to the show, and I thought he was going to murder me because he's like, "Why? Like,
How
this is the worst."
disappointing for a fan, right?
It was, yeah. I was like, ugh.
Hmm.
Like, I
On the
can't even
flip
listen to
side,
their songs now. Anyway.
on the flip side, I saw Panic at the Disco there, and they were super fun. Seeing them. I mean, I didn't know a lot of their stuff because it was like right when they had come out, but I think all of their stuff was super catchy also.
Another one of my big favorite bands from London was Block Party around that time.
Right.
That was another one. Really caught me. Actually, lead singer who went solo went to a school that a lot of my friends went to, so we kind of grew up in the same area. That always brings you closer to an artist, but I just loved their music. I'm a massive fan.
Yeah, they were great.
Yeah.
And again, another group that sort of had a sound that was outside of the mainstream, but still was able to break through, which,
Yeah.
again, I don't know if it could happen today without the support of a place like an MTV.
Yeah, maybe. I got to bring up Damon from Blur, his side project. So maybe Gorillaz was out, but he had the super group, the Good, the Bad, and the Queen, and that was like everything to me. That was incredible. I saw them at Webster Hall at the time. Broken Bells came out, which was a mix of, I believe, I forget the guy's name, from the Shins and Danger Mouse. So that was
Oh,
a
okay. Yes.
kind of one of those projects. So there was a few of these like super group projects happening, maybe 1 or 2 album cycles, if that. But yeah, Broken Bells, the Good, the Bad, and the Queen. Those were 2 special bands for me.
And I again, for me, I'd be remiss if I didn't also bring up Silver Sun Pickups, who,
Yeah,
like, their
yeah,
first 2 albums were just, for me, they were sort of everything also. I just could not stop listening to those. And I remember when I heard the first single from them, and I was like, I am never going to like this. And it just grew on me and
yeah.
grew on me, and I just couldn't stop listening to it. It
Shout
was,
out to Steve Gottlieb, our friend, who helped introduce them to us at MTV.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess we are all rock fans since we brought up a bunch of different
Yeah.
groups. So let's move on to hip hop. And I'd be interested to hear what both of you have to say about your favorite hip hop artists.
I'm a big fan of a lot of old school hip hop. An artist in the TRL era that came to mind, and I'm always trying to go a little bit eclectic, but you got to bring up Jay-Z. And
Well, Jay-Z's not eclectic.
no, but I'm thinking about the Grey album that was produced by Danger Mouse,
Right.
which was a little not so mainstream. But for me, how I was saying the good, the bad, and the Queen, and even like a Niles Barkley, like it had mainstream with a little bit of an edge. And I don't know how the traditional Jay-Z audience liked that album, but for me, it was a little alternative with the traditional Jay-Z flows. So for me, that was good. And even the collabs he did with Swiss Beats on to the next one, that was such a great song for me. And the video, it was black and white. It was just very simple. And, that was a good Jay-Z era.
How about you, Susan? What is your hip hop faves?
In high school, I listened to a lot of Run DMC, LL Cool J, JJ Fad. In college, I mean, it was like the bar bangers, like Tag Team Whoop There It Is or Rump Shaker.
Oh,
I guess during the TRL years, I liked DMX.
yeah.
Wow.
DMX and the Rough Riders. That those are probably my favorite songs. Party Up. I remember when the music department got that single. I love this song. Like I can relate to this. And then I remember like when they started playing it on TRL.
And those are club bangers too, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure yeah.
And Ludacris. I remember when Ludacris came out.
Yeah.
With What's Your Fantasy? And I remember that was big in the bars and I liked Ludacris because he was just one of like the nicer artists that would come through, like super nice.
I have to say, I think may have said this previously. On the first album, we had booked him to do something for MTV.com. The rep came in with him. Nobody else. No entourage. No hangers on. No anything. It was just the digital person from the label and him. On time, easy to work with, very pleasant, very professional. Like he knew what his job was that day. There was no like bullshit with him whatsoever. For a hip hop artist who left an impression on me, that was one of the names. I super agree with you. He was just a really good person. So yeah.
And another one from that time, which this is probably more R&B, but like Drew Hill and Cisco, the Thong Song will always remind me of spring break working Cancun in like 99, 2000. And that was all you heard was the Thong Song.
Yeah. That was a little. I would definitely shout out Yomi from MTV with great hip hop that came through. Atmosphere, Brother Ali. We were recently talking about those artists with Tyson Haller, the Murs. There was a load. Artists like Common, you could say, started in that eclectic hip hop underground vibe. So there was a lot of cool artists. Even early Kanye was incredible.
Yeah.
Or he went crazy.
And even sort of on that eclectic side, there was like Modest Yahoo.
Yeah,
too.
a little bit.
So,
Yeah.
So for me, okay, this is going to be so obvious. It's Eminem for me. I mean, I will admit I'm not a hip hop aficionado. It is not my genre. I could, work in it as long as, I have people sort of informing me what's good, what's not good, what I should be doing, what I shouldn't be doing. But I have to say, if I'm talking about an artist who released catchy single after catchy single after catchy single and video after video after video that was just fun to watch, it would have to be Eminem. And then I'd also probably include 50 Cent too, just again because his
Right.
early stuff was so super catchy. That was for me to listen to a hip hop song. It had to be something that felt a little rhythmic to me and not necessarily so hard edged. I guess I'm just a pop person at heart.
I would
Yeah.
like to thank Eminem and 50 Cent for some of the highest rated days on MTV too.
Good. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Can you
They're
recall full takeover, or was it just driving to
like
premiere?
no, it might be like a Sucker Free Sunday.
Okay,
And
a
maybe it was
hosted.
like a hosted thing, or
Yeah.
maybe we repackaged some shows
Yeah.
and did hip hop themed versions. Like if it was Cribs, which I don't know if Eminem was ever on, but I think 50 was, and like we would repackage that. And whenever we would do an Eminem block, I mean 8 Mile, like we would
Yeah.
do Eminem blocks
I
going
still
into
watch
8
that
Mile.
movie now.
Yeah.
Whenever it's on. I think I watched it
Yeah.
about a month ago.
I remember when he won the Oscar for Best Song from a Film for that movie, but people were saying that at that point in time, they're like, "Yeah, Eminem has an Oscar, but Martin Scorsese doesn't."
Right.
So, which I just thought was very interesting. And then 3 6 Mafia won an Oscar too for Hustle and Flow, right?
Gosh, 3 6 Mafia. I haven't heard that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. They did. They
Yeah.
did.
So that was that Eminem, I think, was just for me sort of epitomized that era. I don't know if I've ever told this little Eminem story. It was a spanking new week, and he was there. Sazlo was like, "Don't bother him! Don't bother him! Don't bother him!" Then he came out. He goes, "Okay, you can say hello." And I had a kid, this like seventh grader from like a town like up by you, Andrew, who was shadowing me for the day. And I knocked on the TRL dressing room door, and he opens it. He's like, "What?" And then he's like, "Just kidding."
Oh, nice.
And then the kid had a credential on, and he's like, "Hey, you want me to sign that for you?" So he signs the kid's credential. I'm sure that kid, when he went back to school the next day, was the most popular kid in school.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being in seventh grade and Eminem signing your little credential for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Well,
was pretty awesome.
if you want more 50 and M stories, check out Justin Prager's podcast with us. He had some good stories about Ja Rule and the 50 camp. So that one just aired. So check out Justin Prager's.
Well, thank you for giving us all of your sort of insights into music from that era. I think it was a great discussion today. It brought back a lot of memories and artists that I didn't remember, which is what we tend to do in this podcast. There's always stuff that kind of comes up and it jogs a memory, and it's nice to sort of remember that and then share it. So we're going to wrap things up today. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate it. And please join
Stay
us
warm.
next time.
Stay warm. See you guys.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today in the Music Lounge.
And tune in next week to hear more stories about your favorite era of MTV.